Remember a couple years ago when that small independent film, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, came out and was going to be used to tie the whole Star Wars saga together because we were finally going to see that awesome climactic battle between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And as part of the story, we got to see Anakin's fall from grace and turn to the dark side and wear really scary lenses in his eyes. And as part of this, his lightsaber changed color from blue to red. No, wait, that didn't happen in the movie? Well, then why were there all these toys with color-changing blades? I mean, not just for role play, but the action figure also came with his standard, the Anakin lightsaber, not the Darth Vader saber, but in two different flavors. I mean, that wasn't in the movie. Why was it in the toys? Or another example, probably fewer of you saw the Green Lantern movie. I know I sure saw it since I worked on the toy line, and you probably remember the cool Green Lantern robot Stell. Well, the toy of Stell didn't exactly look like the movie representation of Stell. The movie representation was, well, a little bit more humanoid, less, bug-like. I mean, he did look more like the actual source material when, that's kind of what Stell looks like in the comic books. But, heck, if you even spin the action figure around, the key art on the back is from the movie and doesn't look anything like the figure that it's right next to. Kind of weird, right? But of course, you all remember in Infinity War that climactic moment when Smart Hulk bursts out of the Hulkbuster armor, and Hulk comes and just decimates Thanos' forces in Wakanda. And no, you don't remember that. Well, there's toys based on that. There's concept art based on that. Why are there toys based on that? It makes no sense. Well, actually, it does kind of make sense. The reason is, and I've touched on this in a few different videos, is toy production starts very early on. And all of these concepts do have one thing in common. They all represent things that never happened in the movie. And this is because the development happened so early on that it almost creates like a Mandela effect where you have the toy and you're like, wait a minute, did this happen in the movie? I don't remember that, but I have a toy of it happening. It's much more like, Ozymandias in Watchmen, and, well, I guess I'm talking about the comic, but also the movie, where he talks about doing it 35 minutes ago. Well, in the toy industry, it's not 35 minutes ago, it's more like several years ago, usually 3 years, could be up to 5 years ago, when development of a toy line begins to coincide with an eventual movie release. And because of that, you're basically basing your designs off what you read in the screenplay or see in very early concept art as opposed to what actually happens on screen. The same thing happens with television, although obviously televisions are on a slightly smaller level these days. And this is something I actually kind of call the pilot effect. Okay, I made that term up, but I found a graphic that says it, so it must be legit somewhere. It probably refers to something in aviation. Let me look at some examples of this and show you what I mean. So, well, just like you remember Revenge of the Sith, you probably remember Star Trek Enterprise, right?
No.
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 No. Yes. No. No.
Okay, well, I really liked Star Trek Enterprise, and I really liked the Art Asylum action figures. They were fantastic. Internal articulation, really good portrait sculpts, fantastic figures, right? All the characters that you would want to get if you were collecting Star Trek Enterprise. You got the guy from Quantum Leap with his little robo-pad, and you got female Spock with her robo-pad, and, all the main characters from the cast. Heck, you could even get the guy from Quantum Leap with a chair. Come on, who doesn't want a chair? It's like the most exciting thing next to Rocky's meat action figure. Go look it up. All right, what about this guy? This guy was in the very first wave. And yeah, obviously he's a Klingon, and we all know Klingons are a big part of Star Trek, and, you can, releasing a Star Trek Klingon figure is like shooting fish in the barrel, especially for collectors. But there weren't that many Klingons in the show, and this Klang guy, well, he was only in one episode. In fact, the one episode he was in was the very first episode, Broken Bow. And the whole episode was basically revolving around returning this Klingon to the Klingon Empire. He got stranded on Earth and blah, blah, blah. Go watch the pilot if you want to know. Yet, he is one of, 6, 7 figures released in the toy line? Kind of weird, right? One guy that appears in one episode right alongside the main cast and main villain of the show? Well, it's because he was in the pilot. And at the time of development, these were the only characters that the toy maker had access to. There's very little reference for a show that's still in development. So you basically have to go off of one pilot script to represent an entire series. It's a weird phenomena, just like, in nature you get weird phenomena. God, those clouds are really weird, but that actually happened. Yeah, phenomena is weird. And if you're in the pilot, then you have a very good chance of being in the show, even if the pilot changes and things that are in the pilot don't even wind up in the show. Like, the original actress that played Daenerys Targaryen, got replaced by Emilia Clarke. So everything is dependent on what happens in that pilot. Let's look at another example. Star Wars Rebels, all right? Awesome, cool show, CGI, available on Disney+. Go watch it. It gets really good towards the end. Not that it was bad in the beginning. But the toy line, again, you expect all the major characters. You get, Zeb, concept Chewbacca, and Stormtrooper, concept Stormtrooper, and, eventually all of the main characters from the cast get represented in different eras and different forms. Some of them changed outfits, some of them got blinded, spoiler alert, some of them, ejected rocket fuel out of its bottom. No, I'm just kidding. That's Chopper. He can fly, because all droids can fly now ever since, Attack of the Clones, but that's not important right now. So yeah, you'd expect to get characters like Zeb. You'd expect to get Chopper. But what about this pack? This pack was released as the initial offering in the 2-pack selection along with the singles. Now, it makes sense to have Sabine and a Stormtrooper as a 2-pack, but 2 Wookiees? There really weren't that many Wookiees in Star Wars Rebels, let alone 2 that deserve to take one of the slots for a 2-pack? Kinda weird. They're definitely not main members of the cast, and they definitely weren't even reoccurring secondary characters. Well, the reason, again, being is that in the very first episode, in the pilot for Star Wars Rebels, you get the characters rescuing a bunch of cute little Wookiees. Some of them were cute. I guess the kid versions were cute. The adults were more like, adults. Adults can be cute. I don't know. But the point being is the plot, much like Enterprise revolving around a Klingon, the plot for Rebels, the pilot, revolved around Wookiees. So the reference for Wookiees was developed early on. It was what the toy maker had access to, which means the toy line then gets populated by characters from the pilot, and not that represent the breadth and depth of the entire series. And these things tend to stand out, because, again, no Wookiees here. There's that whole joke about Zeb not being a Wookiee. I think they call him a hairless Wookiee. He was based on the McQuarrie concept drawing for Chewbacca. That's what the whole joke is. All right, another example from the other coast, Justice League Unlimited, a line I had the honor of working on at the tail end of the line after the show was completed, so, reference was easy. But in the beginning, no one really knew who was going to be the breakout characters, who were going to dominate it in terms of screen time, in terms of a fan following. And one of the very first characters to come out was Green Arrow. Now, it makes sense. Green Arrow is a major DC character. He had his own TV show and all of that. But was he really one of the most dominant characters from Justice League Unlimited as a whole? And obviously the answer is no. But he was in the very first episode of Justice League Unlimited, not Justice League. When it turned into Justice League Unlimited in the, 3rd season, 4th season? I don't know. Go look it up, nerds. The point being is that with an episode revolving around him, much like one of the early episodes revolved around Booster Gold. Now, I think Booster Gold should be in every DC toy line, just simply based on the nature of the character. But having this Booster Gold released not just as a single, but as a 3-pack very early in the Justice League Unlimited toy launch, I think, again, in the first wave, well, it's because he had an early episode. I want to say it was like the 2nd or 3rd episode of the series, of the Justice League Unlimited series, revolved around Booster Gold. All right. One other example that's a little bit different but interesting is, do you remember the cartoon show Secret Saturdays from a couple years ago?
No.
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 No. No.
No. No.
No.
No.
No. No.
Yes. No. No.
Yeah, I know. It only lasted like a season or 2. The point being is they were these characters that tracked down monsters, cryptoids they called them. And one of them was this guy, this winged purple people eater, one-eyed, doesn't have one horn. He's a Popabawa is what he was. I'm not even going to try to make a joke about him because, well, you kind of got to take this thing seriously. It appeared in a very early episode. It was rushed or, selected for an early release. Made sense. It was a cool one-eyed flying, I keep wanting to say one-eyed flying purple people eater, but it's not. I don't know. It just comes out of the tongue, Point being is, it was an early episode, it was selected to be an early Cryptoid release, but there was a big problem. Well, after the figure was made and released, it was discovered that the actual lore behind this figure was, well, it would do really horrible things to children in the middle of the night. Go look it up if you really want to know. I don't think I need to go into it. So Popobawa made it into the line, made it on market, but was pulled and recalled almost immediately once the realization of what this monster, if you will, actually did in, not real life, but what the actual folktales around it were about. So sometimes characters get rushed into a line just because they're in a pilot, even if they're inappropriate. And no matter what, when you're in that pilot, you have a much better chance of being in the toy line than you do in a final episode of a series. Crazy, right? Any other examples you can think of characters that were in a pilot that almost never showed up again yet had a toy? It's an interesting phenomenon. Love to know some examples you can think of. Leave them in the comments below. And as always, the best way to support this channel is to share these videos. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.